We're visiting now with Dan and Rosemary, who are joining us from Hearinglife. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
You guys have such an important job. We were talking a little bit before the show about how we can take some of these things for granted, like our hearing, when it's just something that we have every day and we rely on it. But that's not always the case. It's so important to take care of it. Before we get started here, tell us a little bit about your job and what you do at Hearinglife.
I'm a hearing instrument practitioner. I work at the South Kamloops office, and we're part of a national campaign for Test Your Ears at 60 years.
Okay, yeah, that has a good ring to it.
It does.
Test your ears at 60 years. Hang on to that one.
All right.
Okay, and Dan?
I'm an audiologist in the North Kamloops office, and we're glad to see anybody that would like to come in and have their hearing tested. Okay. There's no charge for that, and just to give them a baseline of where they're at.
That's fantastic. Sometimes that's one of those things that people don't realize they need to look into until something goes wrong. But it's good to know ahead of time. Don't wait. You can come and have your hearing checked at any point.
Go ahead.
Well, oftentimes, you know, we take our hearing for granted, and the reason we take it for granted is because it's how we hear, and how we hear becomes our norm. Oftentimes, hearing loss, when it does happen, is sneaky. It's very, very gradual, and so generally it's our loved ones that notice that we're not responding quite like we did at one time. So
that means we also need to learn to listen to the people around us when they say, I think you should go and get it checked.
Yes.
And that's not always the easy thing to do. We don't want our family telling us there's something wrong.
Right.
But how we notice it is we notice people are mumbling, or we can't hear a noise anymore.
Okay.
It's becoming more and more difficult. We realize we're asking people to repeat.
Right.
If any of those signs come up, come and have your hearing checked.
Okay. And you mentioned 60 years, but really it can happen at any point in time.
Absolutely, it can, and it's something that we tend to not think of as being part of our overall health, but it is. It really is. You know, there's links now that to brain health, and then hearing is part of the brain. You know, these little appendages gather the information, but the brain has to decide what to do with it, and it can't decide if it doesn't hear it.
Absolutely, and it affects relationships and social interactions. You know, if people have a hard time hearing, they don't find themselves going to as many social things as normally they would. So I imagine it's also important for overall health in that way.
Many people, as the hearing starts to get a little bit worse, they start to back out of the social environments that you're talking about. They don't want to go because it's too hard.
Right.
They're not being able to hear. They get embarrassed because they might say something that isn't part of the conversation.
Right. Yes.
And
thought they heard something, then they actually did.
That's right. And so if any of those things are occurring, then it's time to also look at it.
And it's interesting because we do hear, you know, get your vision checked annually, and we do that for our kids from the time that they're little, but not necessarily your hearing. So how often do you recommend that people do get it checked? Just when these symptoms kind of come up, or are there other indicators or guidelines for when people should get their hearing checked?
Well, and that's one of the reasons why that national campaign came up, to test your ears at 60 years, because oftentimes the first hearing test you had was when you went into elementary school, and not again. For people who work in industry, they have their hearing tested on an annual basis, and occasionally that person will say, you know, you really need to go get a full eval done. But the reality is a lot of people don't think about it.
And I imagine there are professions where it's more important that people protect their hearing and maybe come and get it checked out as well. Anything that requires ear protection or working around loud machinery?
Particularly in British Columbia, because we have lumber and the mills, the railroad, welders. There's all kinds of jobs that work within a significant amount of noise.
Right.
And they do, as Rosemary says, get tested on a regular basis. So. But it's those other people that don't. You know, maybe they were a school teacher or worked at a radio station or wherever they might have worked, and hearing loss will occur maybe for different reasons. But it does occur, and it is that silent, quiet, sneak up on you type of situation.
That slow kind of erosion of the health of the hearing.
Correct.
Okay, great. And you guys have two different offices here in town. Hearinglife does. Where are you located?
I am in downtown. I am 321 Nicola Street in the Nicola Medical Building.
Okay.
Yep, 208.
And I'm in the North Hills Mall, just down the hall from Shoppers Drug Mart.
Okay, easy to find. Do people need a referral to come in to see you?
No.
No? Okay. Do they phone in ahead of time to
book?
Okay.
That's a good thing.
Okay,
that would be a good thing.
People can just phone in and say, I'd like to make an appointment to get my hearing checked?
Absolutely.
Great. Fantastic. Anything else you want to add? Anything else that you want to tell us about Hearinglife?
Well, they have a give back program too. So for the give back program, we donate $4 for every test that has been done in our office to this national campaign.
Oh, wow.
And when you have somebody who needs hearing aids, who really can't afford them, we do have the opportunity to access that fund.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's another thing I think that we don't consider, right? You're less likely to go and get your hearing checked if you're concerned that you can't afford the appointment.
Absolutely.
Okay. If you have any of these concerns, or if a loved one has mentioned to you that maybe you should get your hearing checked, now is the time to do it. Come on into Hearinglife. They have their 2 locations, and make sure you check that overall health, which includes your hearing. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
We'll be back with more Midday in just a moment.